Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba.
Former President Mwai Kibaki was born on November 15th, 1931, the youngest of 8 children from a family of active farmers living in Gatuyaini, Nyeri. From a young age, Mwai Kibaki was able to showcase his intelligence that stood out in 1947 after he qualified to study at the prestigious Mangu High School in Kiambu County. He was a brilliant student that later led to him being awarded a scholarship to Uganda's renowned Makerere University in 1951, where he pursued a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics, history, and political science. He graduated 4 years later with first-class honors. While at Makerere, he also served as the vice chairman of the Makerere Students Guild between 1954 and 1955. Mwai Kibaki then received a scholarship to study at the London School of Economics from 1955 to 1958, where he excelled in economics and public finance, graduating with distinction. Upon his return to East Africa, Mwai Kibaki then served his alma mater, Makerere University, as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Economics from 1958 to 1960. In 1960, Mwai Kibaki left Makerere University and joined the Kenya African National Union, commonly known as KANU Party, as he sought greater impact in national politics. After Kenya gained independence in 1963, he won a seat in the National Assembly for Donholm constituency, now Makadara, in Nairobi County. His political career went a notch higher in 1965 when he was appointed Minister of Commerce and Industry, and he later served as the Minister of Finance between 1969 and 1982. His economics background had prepared him to navigate his complex docket. Mwai Kibaki was appointed Vice President when Daniel Arap Moi rose to presidency upon the death of Jomo Kenyatta in 1978. In Moi's cabinet, he was initially entrusted with the finance docket, but Kibaki increasingly found himself at odds with then President Daniel Arap Moi, and in 1988 he was replaced as the Vice President by Josphat Karanja and transferred to the Ministry of Health. No reason was given for his dismissal. During the multi-party state system, Mwai Kibaki resigned his membership in KANU in 1991 to form the Democratic Party in 1992 and 1997. He challenged incumbent President Moi at the ballot, and both times he lost. In 2002, Mwai Kibaki joined a group of notable politicians including Raila Amolo Odinga, Charity Ngilu, and Michael Wamalwa in forming the National Rainbow Coalition, a multi-party alliance that nominated Mwai Kibaki as its presidential candidate.
Ya uchaguzi ambaye ni Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki. Maanake vile mnajua na vile Mheshimiwa Kalonzo amesema, sasa ndio vita imeanza.
A few weeks before the election, Kibaki was involved in a car accident and suffered serious injuries. Although he was confined to a wheelchair, he continued his campaign and easily defeated Moi's chosen successor, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Honorable Mwai Kibaki is ahead of the next presidential candidate, that is Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, by a very wide margin. It is not likely that the margin can be eliminated. He has therefore professionally satisfied the criterion upon which a presidential candidate must be declared elected. The Electoral Commission therefore declares Honorable Mwai Kibaki the President of Kenya.
Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitatenda kazi zangu
Significant economic changes were implemented by Mwai Kibaki during his first term as president. However, the endemic corruption that he had promised to fight during his campaign remained rampant. Mega corruption reared its ugly head in 2005, with members of Kibaki's administration implicated in the 50 billion Kenyan shilling scandal, where 18 security-related contracts were awarded to companies that did not render services or deliver goods paid for. In 2007, Mwai Kibaki formed a new coalition, the Party of National Unity, commonly known as PNU, with his strongest challenger being the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, led by Raila Amolo Odinga and his Pentagon. After a delay in the release of the final election results, Kibaki was declared the winner in the controversial circumstances, narrowly defeating Raila Amolo Odinga of the Orange Democratic Movement. Odinga and his allies immediately disputed the outcome, with international observers questioning the validity of the final results.
We can't get our officers, you know, I don't know. So, I don't know where they are. And so, no, we have asked, listen, we have asked the police to assist us to trace these people. If it is impossible, for me to carry on my work, I can go home. Yeah. I'll go home if I am.
Widespread protest ensued throughout the country and degenerated into horrific acts of violence, which eventually led to the loss of life of more than 1,000 people, and more than 600,000 were displaced in the election's violent aftermath. Frantic efforts to resolve the political impasse between Kibaki and Odinga were not immediately successful, exacerbating the situation. The later former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan arrived in Kenya about a month after the election and successfully brought the two sides to the negotiating table. On February 28, 2008, Kibaki and Odinga signed a power-sharing agreement called the National Accord and Reconciliation Act of 2008, which established the office of the Prime Minister and created a coalition government. 2 years later, a new constitution was approved by 67% of Kenyan voters and promulgated on the 27th of August 2010. Kibaki served the remainder of his term balancing the complexities of a coalition government with the pressure of solidifying its legacy after a hectic 10-year rule. The former president is credited with establishing free primary education, revamping the country's infrastructure, investment in the criminal justice system, spurring a real estate boom, and increasing the immunization coverage for children against several diseases. On April 6, 2013, Kibaki handed over to President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. At that time, the Kenyan economy was growing at 7.1%, with the national debt under 2 trillion Kenyan shillings. President Mwai Kibaki was married to Lucy Muthoni from 1961 until her death in 2016 at the age of 80 years. They had 4 children, namely Judy Wanjiku, Jimmy Kibaki, David Kagai, and Tony Githinji, and numerous grandchildren. Former President Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki still stands as one of Kenya's longest-serving parliamentarians, and by the time of his retirement from State House in 2013, he had clocked 50 years in the August House. Within that time, he had served as a Member of Parliament, Minister, Vice President, Leader of Government Business, Leader of Official Opposition, and President. President Uhuru Kenyatta officially announced Mwai Kibaki's death on Friday in a televised address at State House, Nairobi. The retired president was aged 91 years old.